Magandang umaga po. Good morning, esteemed co-chairs, honorable colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our senior deputy speaker, the proponent of this investigation. Welcome to our 10th Quadcom hearing. Today, we shall continue with our inquiry on the issue on illegal drugs. If you recall, we started in the Committee on Dangerous Drugs in October of last year, 2023. We investigated the illegal drugs seized in a warehouse in Mexico, Pampanga, which turned out to be owned by Empire 999, a corporation owned by Chinese nationals who pretended to be Filipinos. When the hearing started, they all disappeared. Records show that the main players have gone back to China using their real passports and identities. To date, Quadcom has initiated forfeiture proceedings of all their assets here in the country through the Office of the Solicitor General. The Quadcom now discovered that it was but the tip of the iceberg. Empire 999 is not alone in this illegal activity. Other corporations may have been formed to cover or mask this activity, as evidenced by their interlocking sets of incorporators, all the way leading to personalities who are long suspected of illegal drug activities, namely Lin Wei-Xiong and Mr. Michael Yang, the former economic advisor of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. This discovery led us back into the past. Witnesses now claim that powerful people associated with these two Chinese have facilitated the entry of illegal drugs into the country during the past administration. We have invited all these personalities today so we may know whether or not they have any involvement in illegal drugs, and we shall listen to their side later. We shall also resume the hearing on the extrajudicial killings that took the lives of more than 20,000 people during the past administration's war on drugs. In our past hearings, names were mentioned, admissions were made, witnesses and resource persons appeared, questioned, vetted, and tested. Forced admissions in any way was never part of Quadcom. We may not have extracted yet the information fully from them, but we never put words in their mouths. Whatever testimonies and affidavits they presented before the Quadcom were given by them freely and voluntarily. We may be accused of providing entertainment and likened to a gag show, but who is laughing? On the contrary, the one who said that must be so full of himself that he didn't notice that the joke was on him. We are not here to pin down nor exonerate anyone. All we wanted was to know the truth, the same truth that the people have been longing for, most especially by the families of murder victims and the victims who survived. We intend to use these truths in crafting legislation, some of which we have already filed, as well as make recommendations to any agency to plug loopholes in their systems, if any is discovered. If along the way, people are found to be liable, it is our duty to make sure that justice is served. There is nothing funny about it. We only mean serious business. We have reached this point because in the course of the investigation, we found very disturbing facts and questions needing answers. We owe it to the people. As public servants, we pledge loyalty to them. They trusted us and voted us in office. We serve them. We will not use the Quadcom to exonerate ourselves and proclaim our innocence in the face of overwhelming evidence. Now, if I may, I invite all of you to look at the screen and see the inconvenient truth. These numbers are from the official PNP reports as published both then and recently, last October 21, and not just made-up stories by the Quadcom. Ikumpara po natin ang unang 2 taon ng Duterte at BBM Administration. Tingnan po natin ang total ng krimen o tinatawag na index crime volume Sa unang 2 taon po ng Duterte administration ay nakapagtala ito ng 217,830 na krimen. Samantalang sa parehong panahon naman sa BBM administration, ang krimen ay bumaba ng napakalaki. 83,059 o nangangalugan na pagbawas ng 61.87% sa index crimes. Any claim to the contrary is but a figment of the imagination and if not, a propaganda. Pangalawa, tingnan po natin mula July 2016 to December 2017 ay may mga namatay o pinatay na 4,354 sa mga police anti-illegal drug operations habang 16,000 naman at 355 naman ang pinatay na mga riding in tandem at mga di pa nakikilalang mga salarin. Noong 2018, inilagay ng PNP sa kategoryang HCUI or Homicide Cases Under Investigation na umabot sa talang 23,327. Samantala, mula July 2022 hanggang katapusan ng 2023, ang bilang ng mga napatay sa mga legitimate police anti-illegal drugs operations ay 73 lamang po. Pangatlo, may kabuuan na 115,435 na anti-drug operations na nakalikom lamang ng 3,294,44 kilos ng shabu na nagkakahalaga ng 18.43 billion pesos sa unang 2 taon ng dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, habang sa mas kakaunting anti-illegal drug operations lamang sa parehong panahon sa BBM administration ay 84,676, subalit nakalikom na mas maraming shabu na umaabot sa 6,481.16 kilos. The anti-drug campaigns under former President Rodrigo Duterte from July 2016 to July 2018 and the current President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. from July 22 to early 2024 represent contrasting approaches in tackling illegal drugs and the crime in the Philippines. While both administrations aim to reduce drug-related crimes, their methods and resulting outcomes reflect significant strategic and operational differences. Here is a detailed comparison of the first 2 years of the administration's campaign. As has been shown earlier, ang numero po ay hindi po nagsisinungaling. Ito po ay galing sa Philippine National Police. Duterte's anti-drug campaign was characterized by an aggressive, highly visible approach involving frequent operations and a high fatality count. His administration focused on eradicating drug activity at all levels, which led to widespread arrests and significant drops in crime, but also raised concerns over human rights and due process. In contrast, the Marcos administration appears to have adopted a more refined approach, with an emphasis on improved crime-solving rates and efficiency in enforcement. The significantly lower number of fatalities coupled with large drug seizures and high-value arrests suggests a strategic pivot towards disrupting drug networks through focused, intelligence-driven operations. This approach may reflect a more sustainable model aiming to dismantle supply chains rather than focusing on sheer arrest numbers or area saturation tactics. In conclusion, both administrations achieved reductions in crime and drug-related offenses, but the Duterte administration's approach was more intensive and controversial, with high casualties and widespread operations. The Marcos administration has made efforts to continue the campaign with fewer fatalities, a higher concentration on strategic arrests, and increased operational efficiency, suggesting a potential shift towards a more systematic and less violent anti-illegal drugs approach. The numbers mentioned above are real numbers. Sa totoo lang po, hindi namin alam ang mga tunay na pangyayari sa likod ng mga numerong ito hanggang nag-umpisa ang ating investigasyon. Ang sinabi na ating lahat na kwento ay ang karamihan ng mga pinatay ay kagagawan ng mga vigilantes na hindi pa nakikilala habang ang mga natitira ay biktima naman ng legitimate police operations kung saan ang mga pinatay ay sinabing ng laban. Sa mga testimonyang malayang ipinahayag sa ating mga pandinig, ay naipakita na marahil dito ay bunga ng pamamaslang ng mga operatiba o pulis na inutusang pilitin ang mga nahuhuli na manlaban upang tuluyan na silang mapatay. Sa pahayag ng dating Pangulong Duterte sa Senado, sinabi niya na totoong sinabihan niya ang kapulisan na mag-encourage o himukin ang mga suspects na lumaban upang patayin na sila at nang sa gayon ay matapos na ang problema. Mas nakakagimbal ang mga pahayag na may pabuya o reward ang mga operatibang makakapatay ng mga nasa listahan ng drug personalities. Hindi ito maikakaila sapagkat marami na ang nagsabi, kabilang na si dating Special Assistant to the President na ngayon ay Senador Bongo, sa kanya mga interviews noon, kasagsagan ng war on drugs. Ang pangakong pabuya ang malamang na naging dahilan ng paglobo ng dami ng pinatay. Without validation of the so-called narco-lists, names may be added at will, whether or not the person is a drug personality, as in the case of General Wesley Barayuga, whose name was added to the list way after he was killed. May mga nagsasabi na maganda ang mga naganap na patayan sapagkat mga drug lords naman po ang napatay o ang mga adik na kriminal. Subalit sa aming investigasyon, lumalabas na may mga ibang drug lords nga na napatay, subalit iilan lamang, samantalang madaming mga malalaking drug lords ang nagpatuloy sa kanilang gawain at na protektahan pa ng gobyerno at nabigyan pa ng titulo imbis na maimbestigahan. Libo-libo ang mga pinatay na mga tricycle drivers, homeless na nasa kariton, construction workers at mga ordinaryong tao na halos wala nang ang makain at walang laban, mga taong napagtripan na lamang. Ito ba ang mga drug lords? Pangkain nga, wala sila. Pangdroga pa kaya? Mga batang inosente, gaya ni Kian de los Santos, basta na konsunadahan ka, delikado ka na. Lahat ng patay, may reward na katumbas. Sino ba ang ayaw maging ligtas ang ating mga lansangan sa mga masasamang elemento? Subalit kung ang mga pinalit sa mga masasamang elementong ito ay mga otoridad na naghahanap buhay, mas nakakatakot maglakad sa lansangan at baka masama ka sa missing persons or unsolved homicide cases. Ipagpalagay na natin na mga adik ang ibang pinatay. Bakit pa tayo naglaan ng daang-daang milyon sa pagtatayo ng mga drug rehab centers kung papatayin din lamang natin sila? Ito ba ang dahilan kung bakit hindi nagamit ng full capacity or in full capacity yung ating mega rehabilitation center na nandoon sa Nueva Ecija? Pag drug addict ka ba, wala ka ng karapatang mabuhay dahil wala ka ng silbi sa buhay? Ang mga pinatay ay mga tatay, nanay, anak, kapatid, apo, mga miyembro ng pamilya na may mga nagmamahal. Napakinggan natin dito ang kanilang mga naulila. Sila'y kaawa-awa at kalunos-lunos. It is really sad that human lives were lost and wasted just to prove a point that we are against illegal drugs. The right to life is paramount as it is God-given and precedes all other human rights. Without life, there can be no rights. Quadcom will not sit idly by in the face of all these discoveries. We intend to get to the bottom of all these issues fairly, honestly, and truthfully. Hinihingi po namin ang inyong buong pagtitiwala. Hindi po kami nag-aakusa lamang dahil sa politika o ano paman. Kayo po ang humusga. Inilalatag lamang namin ang aming mga impormasyon at katotohanan base sa mga salaysay tunay na pangyayari at mga dokumentong nakalap sa aming mga pag-iimbestiga. Patuloy po naming babantayan at sisiya sa atin ang mga aligasyon, akusasyon at impormasyon para mapangalagaan ang ating bayan. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. The next to deliver his opening remarks is the Chair of the Committee on Human Rights, Congressman Benny Abante. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sa atin pong Senior Deputy Speaker, sa ating Deputy Speaker, sa aking mga co-chairs, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues at mga kababayan, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. We gather here once more for the 10th time, not merely to sit in one of our typical hearings, in order to file one of our usual committee reports, but for something far greater. We have convened again because we cannot and we must not lose sight of the purpose that drives us, the pursuit of justice for the victims of illegal drugs, for the victims of pogos, and for the victims of extrajudicial killings. To help remind us of why we dedicate so much of our time to this task, I ask you to remember the name of Kian de los Santos, that young man, that minor, whose life was tragically cut short by a bullet fired in the dark. We are here today for Kian and for the countless innocents like him who died in the name of a misguided, bloody war on drugs. To our people and to everyone here, I say, enough. Enough with the gaslighting. Enough with the distractions. Enough with the squid tactics. We cannot be knocked off course by words meant to confuse or mislead. At this point, there is one voice we must focus on, one that was used under oath in the halls of the Senate. Last week, former President Duterte himself spoke before the Senate and the nation, and in his own words, took responsibility for the blood spilled in his war on drugs. He did not deny. He did not deflect. He admitted that he gave orders that directed our own police forces to encourage suspected criminals to fight back so they could be killed. Under oath, he told us this without shame and without remorse. This was not hearsay. This was not a speculation. This was a declaration from the man himself. He went further. Under oath, he admitted to the existence of the Davao Death Squad, an entity with a lethal mandate that was replicated around the whole country when PRRD was elected president in 2016. But the former president did not stop there. He pointed his finger at a sitting senator, a member of our very government, and named him a part of the DDS, not a Duterte defending senator, no, but a member of the notorious Davao Death Squad. Ano ang sinabi ni PRRD? And I quote, yung isang senador, yang nakaupo dyan, si Senator De La Rosa, Death Squad rin yan. End of quote. And now comes this familiar refrain. It was all a joke. Biro lamang daw. But I ask you, my friends and my colleagues, I ask you, who makes jokes under oath? Who laughs while mothers bury their sons? Who finds humor in this horror? This is no laughing matter. The lives lost, the grief that lingers, the blood spilled in our streets, These are not punchlines in a cruel joke. These are lives, young innocent lives taken from us. But perhaps we should not be surprised. Perhaps we should not be shocked that this sacred issue, the sanctity of life, is treated so trivially. For we have seen time and time again how human life has been cheapened, how easily these men speak of death, how casually they wash their hands of the blood of the innocent. As Proverbs 31 verse 8 and 9 reminds us, and I quote, "Open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy." End of quote. We are commanded to raise our voices for those who cannot speak, to seek righteousness for those who have been silenced, and to demand justice for those who have suffered unjustly. This, my friends, this is why we must not falter. This is why we must not rest, why we must not turn away. We have a responsibility, not only to the victims, but to our nation. We must continue this work, unyielding, unrelenting, uncompromising. Mga kasama, we have the statement of the former president. We also have testimony and evidence that corroborates what he said under oath. Now, we must hold to account those who have perpetrated these heinous crimes. Now we must ensure that the cries of the oppressed are not drowned out by laughter, that the dignity of human life is restored, and that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. And as we press forward, let us remember this. We do not stand here alone. We stand with Kian. We stand with his family. We stand with a 3-year-old killed by a stray bullet in Cebu. We stand with a 9-year-old killed in Caloocan, and the death certificate showed that he died of pneumonia. We stand with a tricycle driver gunned down just because a drug lord rode in his tricycle. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand with every victim of this dark and bloody campaign. The banality of evil must come to an end. We stand for those who cannot speak, for the voices that were silenced too soon, and we stand with the promise, the solemn vow, that we will do everything in our power to ensure this never happens in our country again. So with hearts full of resolve and eyes fixated on justice, let us continue this work. For if we are to be remembered, if the 19th Congress is to be remembered, let it be not for the jokes or the gaslighting, but for our dedication to the truth, our commitment to justice, and our compassion for those who suffered. Mga kaibigan, maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you, Congressman Abante.